that captive finance companies, like if you have Ford Motor Company and there's Ford Credit or Toyota and Toyota Credit and that sort of thing, where they are, kind of financing their own vehicles, etc. Those businesses are extremely good businesses. And normally, lending is not such a good business. In fact, I've had a lot of permanent wipeouts and losses in the investing in levered financial institutions. And actually, I don't invest in them anymore because I think I'm very bad at them. But captive finance arms are very different. And the reason they're different is, so if you think about, like the certified pre-owned Lexus, for example, right? You go to a Lexus dealer and, they've got the Lexus cars, but they also have the certified pre-owned. So certified pre-owned is only possible with Lexus. You can't have it with anyone else because they can give you a Lexus warranty. They can tell you we've done all the, checks and inspections, and it gives a halo, the brand halo. So it has similar halo to buying a new car, right? In the sense that they're giving you a lot of assurance that you're getting a great car. So when Lexus finances one of their cars, and let's say it's a 3-year or 5-year or 7-year finance deal, and let's say the borrower defaults, doesn't make his payments, etc., they can repossess the car. And when the car comes back to them, they are in a very privileged position versus a typical lender. So if I'm just like, Citibank or Chase or someone who made a loan and the borrower defaults and the asset comes back to me, I have so many different assets I am dealing with that I don't have a particular expertise or competence in a Lexus. Lexus, BMW, Mercedes, they all look the same to Citibank. There's no difference for them, right? So when these cars come back to Citibank, for example, and there's been a default, etc., Citibank will just, send it to auction or whatever and try to get rid of it quickly and try to salvage and get as much money out of it so that they minimize their losses or come out ahead or whatever. But in the case of Lexus, it's a little bit different. So when they repossess the car, they have the option of refurbishing it, making it part of Lexus pre-owned, bringing it back into their dealer channels for sale, and getting a good price for it. So their ability to work with that asset is very different than the ability of a city or someone. And when you go to like equipment finance, like, the tractors and all of that, now those are business tools, right? They're the critical business equipment you need for your business. So first of all, default rate should be lower because you will let the house go, you're going to let many things go before you're going to let the tractor go. Because that's, if they repossess the tractor, you're in trouble. So first of all, default rates are low. But secondly, if there is a default and it comes back to them, they again have the same abilities like Lexus. They can refurbish and they can sell it through the dealer network, etc. And so I found that what I learned from that experience when I was running my IT company is, wow, these captive finance companies are really interesting. It's just something I kept in my head. And, in the financial crisis, when all the auto companies were facing severe issues and they went bankrupt, GM and Chrysler went bankrupt. Ford did not go bankrupt. And the reason Ford did not go bankrupt is because of Ford Credit. So Ford Credit was so strong that it carried the company even when the rest of it was just as bad as GM. And GM had taken their GMAC and they had gone into mortgage lending and a number of other things, which hit them really hard. So they actually, kind of left the reservation and went off the reservation basically, and they paid the price. So the captive finance arm of Lexus should not be financing BMWs. You want to keep it to Lexus because that's where it has real power and competitive advantage. So this experience I had was in the early 90s, just observing this, right? In 2012, which is, maybe something like 30 years, almost 30 years after I made that investment, I made an investment in Fiat Chrysler in the fund. So in 2000, when I learned about this captive finance, I was running an IT company, wasn't running a fund or anything. But when I made the investment in Fiat Chrysler, one of the things I looked for was their captive finance arm, because I knew that piece is really good. And it did not exist. So they had been so decimated, the capital had been so decimated, they had sold everything off, including their captive finance arm. Of course, a number of things that changed in that business where it became a lot better business after the financial crisis because they redid their union contracts, their cost structures went down. So Detroit actually went from being one of the worst places on the planet to build a car in up to 2007 to one of the best places on the planet to build a car in 2009 and beyond. It actually became very competitive. My interest in investing in Fiat Chrysler was because I think the world still thought of auto companies as terrible, high capex, unionized, subject to consumer taste, just everything you can think of that's terrible in making an investment. And what they didn't realize is that when these companies went through bankruptcy, they got cleansed. So a lot of their retirement liabilities went away, the pension liabilities went away. They went and redid their union contracts, and a number of other things came in their way. And the valuation was really off. Like the market cap of Fiat Chrysler was $5 billion, and their annual revenues were $130 billion. So it was trading at about 4% of revenues. And so if they could right the ship and make even modest profits, I felt that they could make 5, 6, 7 billion in a single year. So basically, it'd be less than a PE of 1 against future earnings. And the other thing that was interesting to me was that, which is the main reason I made the investment, was that Sergio Marchionne was the chairman of Fiat, was the CEO of Fiat Chrysler. And I'd done a lot of work looking into Sergio, and he was just a off the charts exceptional leader. So anyway, we made the investment. And from 2012 to 2022, it's a 10x. And unfortunately, I didn't capture the whole 10x because in the middle, Sergio died, which was a big shocker. But we made several times our money. We made like 4 or 5 times our money and such. But the thing is that in the process of owning Fiat Chrysler, I got to know John Elkann, who was the chairman, and he's part of the Agnelli family in Italy, which controls Fiat Chrysler. And I had many conversations with John, and I said that, the finance arm, which doesn't exist because they had a deal with Santander Bank, who was doing all the financing for them. I said the finance arm is one of the most important things to put in place. So I said, why aren't you guys putting resources behind it? Why aren't you guys, I think the answer he gave was that we just don't have the financial strength. And what I also observed is while he was saying we didn't have the financial strength, they were pushing out very large dividends. And that made no sense to me. So I felt like almost like the Fiat Chrysler owners, they had been through so much trauma before that they wanted to pull chips off the table. Whereas I felt that if that cash had gone into the finance arm, and I tried to explain to John that, look, these captive finance arms are really, really exceptional businesses. And, Santander Bank, they finance everything. They don't have the same wherewithal as you guys would have. They never went down that path. So I wonder whether either they didn't understand it or there was something else that I didn't understand. But our investment still worked, but I think it would have worked even better. So this is an example of how something happens in life. You cannot connect the dots, looking forward, but you can connect them looking back. And then later something comes up, which is, way in the future, 30 years in the future. And the dots connect and you can do something about it. So that's something I just wanted to share, that I learned about captive finance arms. And that's a data point I always have. So like recently I was looking at John Deere and I went straight to looking at their captive finance arm. And of course you see in John Deere equipment, you see a lot of cyclicality. You see ups and downs and all that. But when you look at John Deere finance, it's just a straight line up. There is no noise. There is no hiccups because, you're financing for 5 or 7 years. You really don't have high defaults. It's just a very smooth, beautiful line. And it's a great business. And I think they understand how good that business is.